I'm actually very happy with how this tournament broke. We got a nice representation of things, and we saw a lot of good Magic, and I think we're going to see some more good Magic here in just a moment. It's pretty good stuff all weekend long for a tournament where, honestly, I don't think many were expecting that to be the case.
It's been fine. I was really
I was shocked.
Honestly, it's been fine.
Yeah.
I don't think this is a sustainable format. I think very soon we're going to be very short on the number of decks that people can reasonably show up within a tournament. Perhaps the defining feature of Modern over the years and what's made it so much fun is just the diversity. You play 15 rounds and you play against 12 different decks. I don't think that's going to be the case for very much longer, and that might compel Wizards to take action, especially with the Mythic Championship coming up. But this tournament has been fine.
Yep.
The games have been good.
And that has been a very enjoyable experience for all 15 rounds of the Swiss, and making our way very quickly, through these elimination rounds. These players are going to take some mulligans, take a look at some opening hands, and we, of course, want to remind you that next weekend the SCG Tour is off because it'll be Core Set 2020 pre-release time. And we hope that you're able to find a pre-release near you that Star City Games has more or less sponsored, and these stores have gotten the very awesome Pervana playmat.
Mm-hmm.
As this is a depiction somewhat of inspired by Todd Anderson's cat,
Jaeger.
Which Todd was so kind to tell us about on Twitter yesterday.
Yeah. I hope they didn't suspend your account.
I also hope
Go.starcitygames.com/pre-release to get this exclusive playmat available at participating stores. If your store is not signed up for this, should make them do that.
It's too late.
But there will be a next one.
There will definitely be a next one.
And,
big set coming next time too. The big fall set. Fall set's going to be here soon.
I've got some new set fatigue.
Yeah, we need a little break. Let's make it through the summer. Let's play some Magic with the cards that are out there.
It was really just Horizons into 2020 so fast.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. I hope 2020 is good, though. I hope it has an impact. I think it will because all Magic sets do. But
I mean, it's very hard to have no impact on Standard. The times that it happened is where they've shot very low in a time that was relatively high.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen very often. Even Mercadian Masks made an impact.
Coming on port, baby.
Dust Bowl. 2 Stone Rain lands.
Dust Bowl, one of my favorite cards of all time. Is that weird?
It's a little weird.
Yeah. I'm really a big fan of that card.
Usually, something that I like to use as a metric is how interesting is the game the turn after. Dust Bowl does not grade very well on that test.
Wow.
You did it this turn. What do you think you will try to do next turn?
We see Bastecki and Harvey finishing shuffling up here.
So that was a big breakthrough for me as a Magic player. My first FNM deck was Stone Rain Smokestack.
Dude, nice.
And I Stone Rained someone's forest instead of their treetop village. And my friend asked, why would you do that? And I'm like, because the Dust Bowl will sweep up the non-basics.
That's just good deck building.
Stone Rain your Gaia's Cradle. Now you can't pay Echo.
Yeah. There it is. It's a good picture, too.
Yeah, this is another effort to make Strip Mine, a less egregious Strip Mine, play well. This one failed. Just like the previous one, Wasteland failed.
Leyline of the... What? What?
What's the other...
We got main deck Leylines up for this, Dom?
What was the Rashad Port that was in Prophecy? They made it twice. They made another rare Rashad Port land.
Dude, I don't remember. That one was bad, though.
Yeah. Sat him to port him twice.
Dom has 2 main deck Leylines.
What? They got the flex slots. They don't cast spells. They got room to spare.
I just think it's funny. You're going to pay a lot for those Izzet Phoenixes now. Blood Crypt untapped is where we shall go. This is a faithless looting. Bloodghast, bridge from below to the bin. Opt on the end step here for Bastecki. this is another Hobbs. Top card becomes the bottom one for Alex. And no second land, so we head back over to Dominic Harvey now. He'll play a Citrus Supplier. 3 lands will head to the graveyard. Now he'll organize his graveyard a little bit here to make it clear what cards matter and which ones don't. Further Catacombs is going to trigger the Bloodghast. Bloodghast is back. Harvey does have a copy of Altar of Dementia in hand.
With Bridge in the graveyard and Bastecki having no red mana to interact with, Harvey might produce an overwhelming advantage next turn, even if Bastecki happens to draw a land.
It's a good spot to make a move. Godless Shrine's going to enter the battlefield tapped, it appears. All right, let's call it 2. What did I miss?
Him exiling his graveyard.
I just missed him exiling his graveyard. Got it. Got it. So.
Anyone's game.
Yeah. Serum Visions. Pretty good card. Draw 2. Yep. Bridgmine up a game over Phoenix.
Well, and it's also, I mean, it is huge for Harvey's team to be able to break serve on a matchup this close.
It's very true.
Yep.
It's very true. Winning a game on the draw is a pretty big deal. It gives you the play in game 3 if there is one.
And what we've watched so far over the weekend is Phoenix got a lot of interaction for this kind of matchup. You have Thing in the Ice, which can undo a lot of work. You have your Ravenous Strategy and Surgical Extractions. There's a real big burden on Phoenix to stay on top of the game because the deck is not very good at handling the card Hodak itself.
Mm-hmm.
And if that ever gets onto the battlefield, even if you've done a good job of managing the graveyard up until that point or taking Altar of Dementia out of the equation, it's hard for you to race an 8-8.
It's hard for most people to race an 8-8.
With trample.
Especially, it's one that tramples like Hogak does. So, Dominic Harvey very quickly wins game number 1. When we have results for our other matches, we will, of course, let you know, and we're going to do our best to hold and move and all that jazz so we can show you the final points of damage being dealt. Here are your sideboards, folks. Let's start with Alex Bastecki and his 3 Ravenous Traps, 2 Spell Pierce, 2 Narset, Harder of Veils, 2 Force Negation, 2 Blood Moon, 2 Anger of the Gods, and a Braid and a Healy Sublime Artificer.
So the 3 Ravenous Traps are the obvious one. I believe I've watched Alex bring Anger of the Gods in this matchup. I think the Spell Pierces and the Force of Negations are fine here, too.
Other side of things, for Dom Harvey, 4 Wismare, 3 Crypt Breaker, 2 Fatal Push, 2 Thoughtseizes. The other 2 Ley Lines are in the sideboard, along with a Plague Engineer and a Wear Tear.
I mean, you could bring in the Ley Lines. They're hit or miss here, but, there's certainly some stuff going on with Bastecki's graveyard. May want to bring them in. The Fatal Pushes are great here. I like the Crypt Breakers. And if you've got the room to spare, you can bring in the Thoughtseizes, but I doubt they're for this matchup. Thing in the Ice is really the only critical thing to catch there. Everything else is really redundant.
Alrighty, folks. Last time this weekend that we're going to announce the Star City Games personality tokens. They're new and they become available starting tomorrow. Set of 5 included with entry into any Star City Games Open or Classic or any StarCityGames.com order of $20 or more. Or you can collect your set by participating in SCGIQs. Let's go over the 5 tokens like me. Blue buff zombie army with some sort of weapon.
So buff in contrast to the other zombies also.
Yeah, I have no say in the zombies behind me.
Yeah.
Some people said I should have just made them you.
Oh, yeah.
Behind me.
Yeah, that would have gone over just extremely well.
Yeah, I'm sure that would have been great. Let's take a look at the next one. Andrew Ellenbogen leading the Vampire Horde. We go to our next token. Ross Marion, very angry elemental. Our next one is Sam Black as a clue token. And finally, it is Dylan Hand, an elemental for Voice of Resurgence and other elementals of that type, I'm sure. There's got to be other elementals that have that baseline, right?
Probably.
I
mean, I think that is just a green, white, colorless design from back in the day, but not as a token. I think
so.
But I don't know for sure. Anywho, head out to our events, place an order from the website, play in some IQs, however you want to go about doing it. Plenty of ways to get the latest set of Star City Games personality tokens.
Alrighty. That's in the books. Last time this weekend. Well, we got Jonathan Hobbs and Jeremy Bertarioni all win game 1. They've all broken serve. These players will shuffle up, getting ready here for game number 2. Breaking serve, pretty big deal here for the team on the right. I'll tell you what. I'm going to tell you what. That's a pretty big deal.
Yep, forcing them to winning. I mean, that's the thing. Before there was no burden on Alex's team to win a game on the draw, and now there's a lot of burden for them to win games on the draw.
Yep.
And the format is pretty fast, as you saw there.
Yeah. Just a bit. Just a bit. We'll see if Bastecki can keep up. On the play, thing on the ice on turn 2 on the play is very nice, of course. He's got some more graveyard hate, surgicals and ravenous traps coming in, but both players are working with each other's deck list. They know this. There are no surprises here. And we'll see how things do end up breaking. I have to imagine Coval likes his matchup against humans, but I know he just likes his deck a lot this weekend. So,
New Sweeper is a big deal. Access to Ensnaring Bridge is a big deal. Good tools for the matchup.
Lot to like.
Jeremy on the right side here was the only one who I thought had, just the better of it, 75 to 75. And even he has to deal with the deficit of being on the draw, but a clean sweep. Huge in their efforts to upset based on seeding.
So we'll see what kind of hands these players find here in just a moment. Very important match for everybody involved here. Alex Bastecki, of course, an invitational champion. Dom Harvey, an open winner earlier this year. Runner-up as well in our first open of the year. That was also Team Modern. And he'd really like to get his Season 2 off to a great start with a W. Because he is someone who is hell-bent on trying to get to the Players' Championship this year. That's a very clear-cut goal for him. Was not thrilled with how his Season 1 ended after getting off to such an early lead. But
yeah, sort of faded there towards the back end of Season 1.
These seasons are long.
Yep.
There's a lot of work to be done. Not sure if Alex likes what he's looking at. And it looks like Dom's calling for help here from Jeremy. Well, this is the team aspect of the tournament, right? Where you get to ask your teammates for help. Wow, what's the best way to approach this situation?
And I mean, is it Phoenix versus Ridge Fund of all the matchups is the one where it can be determined by the hands you choose to keep versus the hands you mulligan.
Yep. Got to have some good teammates that you trust. And you have to figure out the best way to communicate, too, which is definitely a skill.
Oh, definitely. One that I do not possess.
Yeah, in the Team GP we played, we just didn't even talk to each other.
My favorite moment there, master communication, Ben Lundquist, such a gentle soul, hopped into one of my matches game 1 because he could tell that I didn't know how Thief of Sanity worked.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to say it out loud. Okay. So he asked me like 7 different leading questions to try to inform me that I could not play lands off of Thief of Sanity without actually saying it out loud. So that communication was very good.
Teamwork.
Ben was too gentle. He didn't have it in him to just say, dude, you can't take lands. Don't try.
But it kept your spirits up.
It was a very sweet moment.
Yes, it was.
He's like, hold on, wait a minute. Well, I think you should take the spell here. I'm like, okay. It just like sets the 2 lands aside for a second. And he says, because next turn you can cast this.
Yes.
Use the word cast because the Sanity says cast.
Yeah.
A good friend.
Very good.
Very good friend.
Yes. Vertic Catacombs finds a swamp. Carrion Feeder is how Dom Harvey's going to start game number 2. Bastecki has a Scalding Tarn. He'll sacrifice that Scald in time. And that is a Steam Vents that's going to enter the battlefield untapped. Now there's the Serum Visions. So it's time to do some cantripping. And now Scry 2. We will see what Alex wants to do with the Scry here momentarily, as he and his team are looking to make a comeback here after getting the broom in the first handful of games. And he is thinking bottom for both. He'll play Misty Rainforest and pass the turn back over to Harvey. Harvey and Jay Hobbs going to have a little chit-chat. Step 1 is the beatdowns, which, of course, I approve.
Step 1, getting busy.
Step 2 is Goblet Shrine untapped. And Alter Dementia. Get the powerful artifact online. Step 3 could be win the game.
Yeah, I mean, Bastecki here not so far representing a whole lot of interaction, but of course a lot of his stuff costs 0. So Dom's got to kind of play around everything preemptively.
Steam Vents will enter the battlefield tap there via the Misty Rainforest. We'll go over to Alex here momentarily for his third turn of game number 2.
And it's hard to believe that Bastecki would keep a hand this slow without some amount of graveyard interaction.
An opt will allow Alex to scry. The top card becomes the bottom card. So a mystery card coming. That's a basic island. And that's it for this turn. Back over to Harvey. His third turn of the game. Carrion Feeder, Alter Dementia, Swamp, Goblet Shrine. That's the battlefield. The easy part again is attacking. Blood Crypt looks like it's going to enter the battlefield tapped. And that's it. So a slow start here for both players.
Well, if I'm in Harvey's position, I'm not really trying to put the pedal to the metal here. The likelihood that Bastecki has Anger of the Gods or something that attacks the graveyard is really high with the opening that he's had. So I'm not trying to dump everything in the graveyard and do one big turn just yet. It's going to be kind of a slow and steady one here, I think.
Here's Finale of Promise. Opt and Serum Visions. A lot of manipulation of material.
A lot of decisions to think about.
Like, which one do you play first?
Right. How do you want to order your scries? Ban all cantrips at scry. You can play with Thought Scour, Peak, things where the game, like something happens and then we just move on with our lives. Because the thing is, it is actually complicated.
Oh, yeah, this is.
It's really hard.
Yeah. Serum Visions will draw a card and scry 2. Alex will be consulting his hand, and both of these cards are going to go to the bottom again, it appears. Yes. And now, opting. Well, if Bastecki didn't have Graveyard Hate before, he almost certainly has it now. as he's seen so many cards this game. I would just be shocked if he doesn't have any. Flooded Strand will be sacrificed now after the finale. And we'll see what Alex wants to draw, or wants to dig up, pardon me. It'll be a basic island. We'll see what the foul play is going to be here. As Dom waits patiently. And actually, no follow-up play. We're just going to go back over to Harvey now. For his fourth turn of the game. Carrion Feeder, Alter Dementia, those are the permanents on the battlefield. Couple of lands. Looks like he can cast everything. But his hand must be fairly reactive if he's off to such a slow start.
Well, I think, Bastecki signaled kind of the nature of his hand without showing it being very reactive. And that puts a lot of impetus on Harvey to be careful here and not overextend.
All right, teammate. What are we thinking? Harvey and Hobbs, a lot to think about here.
Well, the other thing is, the Is a Phoenix deck is capable of pivoting from I'm not really doing anything, I'm just cantripping, smoothing out my draw, to applying a lot of damage very quickly. So it's not so simple for Harvey to say, okay, just getting these little chip shots here and there, try to bleed out the graveyard interaction without giving up too much, because even though Bastecki has nothing going on right now, that can change very quickly.
Beatdowns. For a very tiny one. A fetch land. And we will pass it back over to Bastecki, who's at 12. It looks like he's got a couple copies of Arclight Phoenix in hand, but no real way to start stringing together spells at this point. Which is a weird thing to say about Is It Phoenix.
Well, it's got to be the looting is the last piece of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm. And with so much on the line right now, we're going to see players consult their teammates a lot. Because they do not want to do anything to jeopardize the situation for themselves or their team. They want to walk out of here with that $7,500, those SCG points, and an invite to the Season 2 Invitational at SCGCon. Metamorphose. Probably your classic blue-red split, if I had to guess. And it is. Bastecki will draw a card off the very powerful hybrid spell. This is a Thought Scour, red mana floating. 2 cards added to the graveyard. 1 to the hand. Brian curious about Alex's play. He's going to go with another copy Metamorphose. I think these players are making sure everything is accurate where it needs to be.
Yep. If whether it's mana floating, if Bastecki has red mana, all that
We'll see the blue-red split again. Drawing a card.
Oh, cool.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Another thing to consider.
Yep. Another Metamorphose. Oh, boy.
In between the semis and the finals, when I was talking about the game getting on the table,
I do
you and
recall.
I sharing the game.
I do recall.
This is what I'm talking about.
Yep.
It's not like Bastecki doesn't have choices to make.
He's got a million choices to make.
It's just Dom doesn't get to participate in whatever the experience
Dom
is.
helped him with his mana.
Yeah. That's true. He did lose track of his mana briefly.
Yeah,
Dom
so he
helped
him. Dom's helping him again.
That is sharing the experience.
That's right.
How many spells have you cast this turn? Have you played a land? Okay, I don't think you played a land. Okay, you can play the land, sure. You know.
Yeah, just play it. Who cares? Scalding Tarn, sacrificing it. Losing at least 1 life, potentially 3. Faithless Looting.
Here we go.
Phoenix is to the bin. Might be time to flash back Faithless Looting.
Perhaps advancing the game state.
A touch.
That's what I was speaking to before about, even with Dom sensing that Alex was a little on the slow side and wanting to be careful about it, you still got to try to create some leverage here because given enough time, this starts happening.
Yep. We got our head judge there, Patrick Vorbroker, making sure everything is on the up and up.
Cast a cantrip and looting plus flashback looting, and everything else he did was Metamorphose, was just mana neutral.
So now is the time to get Phoenixes back in the graveyard. There are 3 down there. And I also like to get all 3 back, and that'll be fine. And now it's beatdowns for 9. And now it's a 2-turn clock. Bloodghast will be sacrificed to Alter Dementia. This will allow Dom to mill over 2 cards. He's getting to start to play now. What's this? Fatal Push with Revolt. With that, Harvey's going to fall down to 11.
But it's still not unreasonable for Harvey to assume that he's still on a 2-turn clock here with
With Lightning Bolts.
Bastecki having a full hand, having spent the last 4 turns doing nothing but manipulating his draw step, probably can fire back in.
I think Harvey and Hobbs know that, and they're going to try to get to work on this game. All right, time for a little Marvel team up here. If you didn't notice on the scoreboard, we got 1 match in the books. Jeremy Bertarioni with Mardu Death Shadow won his match over James Manges. And that means that the team of Harvey, Hobbs, and Bertarioni are up a match in this final match here in Pittsburgh. Harvey is going to flashback Faithless Looting. And Bastecki says that's fine. So 2 cards drawn. One of them is Hogak. Harvey's going to discard a Vengevine as one of the relevant cards and something else that is clearly irrelevant. Bloodstained Mire is going to be the land. That's going to trigger the Bloodghast coming back from the graveyard. That will resolve. What is Harvey setting up here? Because he's in some trouble if he has to pass the turn.
I mean, a hard cast Hogak would make some sense.
Assuming that's good, which I would assume it is. But if I'm down, I'm also assuming that Bastecki has found at least one graveyard removal spell, surgical or trap, or both. Seen a lot of cards. So Harvey hasn't played any creatures yet this turn. So bringing Vengevine back might be a little bit of work. He's going to sacrifice Bloodghast now to the altar. Vengevine and Insolent Neonate will go to the graveyard. Neonate in one pile, Vengevine in the other. All right, Blood Crypt enters the battlefield untapped. And that brings back Bloodghast. We'll see if that resolves. Bastecki says that's fine. Harvey falls down to 8.
Yeah, Harvey's list, I believe, only with 1 copy of the Swamp. We've mostly seen 2 out of these lists. A little problematic here with his life total really brushes at this point.
Let's sacrifice another one. Delta Gravecrawler. Okay.
Gravecrawler's a hit.
Doesn't seem bad. Again, this is all in the face of a tapped out opponent who, if you're Dom Harvey, you are assuming has some amount of graveyard hate in hand.
Right.
You just don't know which piece or how much. But given that Bastecki has spent basically the entire game cantripping and manipulating, it's basically impossible that he wouldn't have something. So now Hobbs and Harvey are teaming up to figure out what to do next. As Jeremy Bertarioni said, I did my job.
I'm out of here.
Yeah, there's nothing else for me to do. You guys got this. It's a credit to him, honestly. His Mardu Death Shadow deck looked pretty good all weekend long.
Yep, quite a very, very strong performance, and a couple times we had it on camera, looked like there was a lot going on there.
Yeah, it looked pretty sharp. Might be one of the untold stories all weekend here of how good that deck was. All right, Blood Crypt enters the battlefield untapped. Dom would like to get Bloodghast.
Probably hunting for bridge here to really get the ball rolling.
That's what it feels like to me. I do agree with you that Gravecrawler is a pretty nice find because of those Vengevines that are down there. All right, sacrifice Bloodghast to alter again. Jeremy says, I'm not sure.
Jeremy tagging in.
Jeremy says, maybe I don't want to say anything. Citrus Supply or Alter Dementia are headed to the graveyard. Those go into the irrelevant side. Bloodgas also has made its way into the irrelevant side because there's no way for Dom to bring it back again this turn. He's going to cast the Stitcher Supplier from hand, it looks like. Yeah. Trigger. Is this where Bastecki makes his move, assuming he has a move to make? Coval says that's fine. Bastecki agrees.
Yeah, I think that Bastecki's probably, if he's going to use a surgical on anything, it's going to be bridge from below.
Okay.
Keep him off. Keep Harvey off his ability to come. Because now, I mean, Harvey has to win this turn, and it's really hard to do that absent bridge.
He's going to hard cast Gravecrawler. Surgical Extraction is going to go after Vengevines. That's a bunch of Hogaks in hand, which could be really bad news for Bastecki.
If he doesn't have a second piece of graveyard interaction here, I'm a little. I don't know. I guess. What could even was eligible to attack at the start of the turn? Just the Carrion Feeder.
That's it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it freezes you out of being able to cast Surgical Extraction if he gets the Vengevines back and can hit you for 10.
Well, it looks like Harvey's.
I mean, there's a window here for Harvey to just win the game this turn now. If Bastecki's out of interaction.
Yeah, if he's out of interaction, there is the opportunity. So, let's convoke in a Hogak.
Really needs a second surgical here because if Harvey can find a bridge, and I mean he's he can only not find it for so long. His deck's only so many cards. He's going to get a lot of looks at it.
So there's your Delve and your Convoke. And here's your Hogak. All right. I think you might begin by sacrificing Stitcher's Supplier here as opposed to Hogak. I think you want to start working yourself in the play that we saw Pardee doing, which was casting Hogak with Hogak Convoke, and then sacking it to Alter with it on the stack. And that actually allows your Hogak to not get surgical. So here's Stitcher's Supplier. That'll die. Lightning Axe, Carrion Feeder, Insolent Neonate. That's 4 cards because it was sacrificed to Alter Dementia.
Right, but you can still go ahead here and just use the Hogak and the other Carrion Feeder to convoke in. And
now you can.
Let it rip again.
Yep, for 8. You can let it rip again for 8. It looks like he wants to sack Gravecrawler
Right,
first.
it's basic. Well, I don't know if you want to give yourself the shot of finding 2. I don't know. I think I would just open here. It's my intuition. I don't know if you're supposed to do something with the Gravecrawler first. I guess Gravecrawler if you sacrifice the Gravecrawler, it runs the risk of turning over another Hogak, and if he has surgical in hand, then
it kind of blows up what you're doing a little bit.
But the second surgical is going to be really hard to beat anyway, because all this is predicated, I think, on bridge from below coming in pretty fast. But I don't know. Depending on how exactly the graveyard shakes out here, he might be able to go over the top and do things that way.
And so now Dom is going to sacrifice this Hogak for 5, 6, 7, 8.
All right, there's a bridge. I mean, we're going to see
it might only take 1 bridge to get it done.
We're going to see if there's another piece of graveyard interaction from Bastecki. We're going to see it now.
Yep.
Because it is about to be. I mean, this is almost all rolled up already.
Yeah, you sacrifice a Gravecrawler, you get an untapped zombie. So if you've got Surgical or Trap, you need it right now. And that's why you see Dom Harvey holding that zombie token saying, if this resolves, I think I'm good.
But also, I mean, Harvey has some infrastructure here to respond to a surgical extraction and keep going.
Yeah?
It's not as simple as just surgical your bridge because he's going to get a bunch of looks at it in response. And, you know, depending on how the bridges shake out, it's possible he can just make a bunch of zombies in response,
get the Hogaks back and maybe have a shot at milling out Bastecki.
Yeah, because Dom can't do it via the attack step now anymore.
Well, no, I mean, his lethal next turn, we're off of that.
Yeah.
And the Vengevines are gone, so there's no hope of that. But there is a chance here that even with Surgical,
there's Surgical,
that Dom can just play over the top if it breaks right, and then, Bastecki gets milled out.
It just depends on what Bastecki's targeting now.
I mean, if he's pulling the trigger now, the thing that's changed is Bridge from Below is now part of the equation.
Well, Hogak's part of the equation, too.
It's eligible in the graveyard, but that seems – I mean, Harvey's got one in play. Yeah. So you Surgical the Hogak, and he still has one to run with. I have to assume it's Bridge. We'll find out in a second.
We will find out in a second.
And if Harvey's thinking about responding – if he's thinking about responding –
all right, Surgical starting Bridge.
And if Harvey's thinking about responding, then it's got to be that's the card that would create the impetus.
So he's going to sacrifice Hogak first. Keep in mind the Surgical brings Bastecki down to 7. Okay. And he's milling Alex now for 8 cards. And now he's going to sacrifice Carrion Feeder. Okay. So mill a card.
Is Bastecki really that low on cards?
Well, I mean, we're going to find out, right? You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, I mean,
he did do a lot of looting and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
But he's not close to 6. I thought that if he was, I assumed that Harvey was going to try to mill himself first to get to a second bridge.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And
a little bit of upside for him to mill himself.
When he paused, I thought, I mean, does he already have it with just the 6 power that he has left over here? I don't think that's the case.
Well, he does have the ability now. He's got 23 cards left, does Alex. Now, he doesn't get that zombie because the bridges are gone. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and now it's just a lethal
And now
attack.
it's just too short. Yeah, now he's just too short. He could mill him. He could mill him for 10 more. He could mill him for 8, 9, 10. He can mill him for 12 more, which is obviously not enough because he can convoke back a Hogak, and then use Hogak plus the 4 power worth of zombies. So that's 12 more, and that's not enough. All right, middle match.
Only had to wait for half an hour. Time to dive in.
Let's go to the middle. Hobbs and Coval. Team Magic is fun. No, Johnny. Okay, first of all, Brian's on the play. Here we go. These players have kept their opening hands. We should be ready to rock and roll here. There we go. An island, a Serum Visions. Oh, good.
Cool.
Oh, goody. Didn't see enough of these in the last game. Split the difference on the Scry. And we're going to head over to Johnny Hobbs, who's looking for his first open win. Already has 2 runner-ups on the resume. He said it's a Magic Fest. She's not Magic Fest. Mythic Championship 4 in Barcelona after winning an MCQ. He's seeing a lot of success in all areas as this youngster from Marion, Indiana. Prismatic Vista will be sacrificed here by Brian Coval, new fetch land from Modern Horizons. That'll get him a snow-covered swamp. Let's vial it up. The champ is here. Horizon Canopy is the land. Meddling Mage is the play. We'll see what it's going to name here in just a moment. We'll get confirmation on the Meddling Mage name. Goblin Engineer is the name. This is a Psi Master Thopterist, a Mox Opal, and a Thopter. That's a pretty good turn.
Yep, a lot to grind through here. A lot of chump blocking, a lot of ability to draw cards.
We've seen how effective Psi used to be against humans when Ironworks was a deck.
Mm-hmm.
It was a tool that a lot of players used to go to, including Invitational champion Andrew Jessup, to defeat humans. All right, what comes next? Might be your favorite there, partner.
A little reflector mage.
Yeah, they're thinking about it. They're going to do a little vial work first. Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. Now Reflector Mage.
And Hobbs with a Phantasmal Image among his leftovers here. So this is a really both explosive and versatile opening.
There's another Prismatic Vista. Maybe Urza. Yep. That'll make that Karnstruct token. That's going to be a 1. It's going to be a 4 right now. Thopter Foundry, the Construct token itself, the Thopter, and then the Mox Opal that's hiding among those lands.
The ground getting pretty clogged up here. I mean, Hobbs has the image. It's available to use on the Construct token through Urza. But even Urza as a 1/4 is not the worst blocker on this battlefield.
Yeah, I mean, Champion of the Parish looks good, though. Noble Hierarch the draw. Champion might just outclass everything, and then you start having to get in the chump blocking mode with the Thopter Foundry tokens.
Yeah, but Coval is at least, even if his hand is not that well set up right now, he's at least buying himself some time.
Another champ. Grow the first champ into a 5/5. Waterlogged Grove is going to bring Hobbs a little bit lower. And there's Noble Hierarch. Grow some champs. What do we copy here with this Phantasmal Image, or do we just wait?
I mean, if the Champion of the Parish is larger than the Construct, then you can attack with just Champion of the Parish, pass it back, and hope that Coval can essentially make a mistake here. The other alternative is just push forward this turn.
I mean, I like just trying to get the game over with, but I always like trying to get the game over with. So.
Yeah, but I mean, I appreciate trying to get the game over with. The question is just Construct token versus Urza. Do you take?
I think Urza.
Try to take 2 turns off of Urza Mattering, or get the Construct over with forever. But Urza's just so flexible and so powerful. I think you got to answer that first.
You get your attack in here for 8.
And any artifact you get off the battlefield here is a win too.
Yep. Now Brian's got life to work with, so he can take 8 pretty comfortably, but I'm not sure if he actually wants to do that or not.
Well, I mean, he's got some to work with, but you don't want to get in the spot where you play side next turn and just don't have enough blockers for everything. And you'd like to keep around some blockers or generate some Thopters, because that creates more forward pressure with Urza the following turn, both in growing that Construct token and giving yourself the artifacts necessary to make the mana to use the Temporal Aperture power. The short version of this is that it's pretty complicated.
Yes.
The sum of this.
Nothing straightforward about it. All right, Mr. Coval, you're at 6. A little bit of trouble, methinks. We'll see if he wants to put together on this turn, as Nick Miller and many are watching down there in the pit, including, once again, our head judge here in Pittsburgh, Patrick Vorboker. A team with 2 invitational champions might get upended in the finals here. Not something we see too often here on the SCG Tour.
I mean, we're getting to the point where the very, very specific particulars of combat are going to matter a lot next turn.
Yes, they are. And is this something that Brian is well suited to do? How well does he handle this? We know his prowess in Vintage and Legacy, but we're getting a little bit combat mathy now.
He's a little bottleneck, too, on his ability to do anything with Thopter Foundry because the artifacts he's generating so far have been coming from tokens.
Mm-hmm. That was a pass? Okay, well, that's a whir.
Yeah, I mean, war for bridge would justify that.
Yeah. A vial up to 3 here for old Jay Hobbs. He'll start by sacrificing the waterlogged grove. He's also got a horizon canopy he can sack too. That's these horizon lands, these new ones, great additions to humans. Pardon me. And Jeremy, a player with some experience playing humans as well, so might be helpful in this situation. And for Hobbs, you're just trying to see if it makes sense for you to attack with anything but that large champion.
I mean, your attacks are pretty safe here. If nothing of note is going on, it is lethal, and you make a ton of inroads on the battlefield. Even if something of value gets eaten up, yeah, just send it in and see what Coval has. Your position gets so much worse next turn because Coval is going to have access to both Sai and to Urza.
And if this is Whir, he's got access to Sword.
Right.
Right? So he can just go get that and start cranking out tokens.
It's not going to get better.
Yeah.
So
and who knows? Maybe if you're Hobbs, you've got something to put through the old vial.
Yep. He might be able to play back a little bit.
Yeah. And now Coval's the one that's got something to think about here, as Johnny Hobbs is putting Brian to the test. All right, we're going to start by using the Mox, it looks like. He's going to sack the Mox, maybe to Thopter Foundry. And the nice thing here, if you're Hobbs, is you're whittling away all these artifacts, like you mentioned last turn.
Anything you get off the battlefield is a win.
Yep.
Because Coval needs all of it. It all adds up to mana. It all adds up to size of the constructs, everything. So you don't like trading with tokens, but any inroads he can make on the battlefield here is some sort of win.
I'm surprised he didn't have Whir to play.
He still might. I mean, he still might just be passing, hoping that he can get something out of Hobbs here, and then he can still set up shop next turn.
That's true. Whir would also cost a little bit more because of the value that's on the battlefield. All right, we're going to see some exchanges in combat. Thalia's going to bite the dust. These stopper tokens are going to bite the dust. Some damage will be dealt. And dust will settle with Coval at 1. There's an ancient ziggurat.
Yeah, I mean, also going full throttle here, he's got to be careful. There's W to attention in the sideboard here, too.
Yeah, which is a great card in this matchup. Time to ask the teammates.
Yep.
That is it. We have our champions, Dominic Harvey, Jonathan Hobbs, and Jeremy Bertarioni.